The last 30 years has seen a revolution in our understanding of carbon. In fact, every 10 years there seems to be a Nobel Prize associated with some new discovery in carbon. Now, carbon's been known and been useful to human beings since the beginning of time. In fact, diamond and graphite, the two pure forms of carbon that everyone knows, go back a long while. Diamond and graphite come from the Greek. Diamond means invincible, the hardest naturally occurring substance. And graphite means to write because it's used in our pencils. Now, if you look at diamond, we've got a model of diamond here, or tiniest bit of diamond. You see that each carbon atom has got 4 neighbours in this beautiful sort of mountain-like tetrahedral structure. And because it has such a strong, amazingly rigid structure, that's why diamond is so strong. Graphite, on the other hand, the actual atoms are bonded very strongly in planes and sheets, but the bonding between the sheets, stacked one on top of the other, is relatively weak. So presumably when you're drawing with a pencil, sheets of these atoms are coming off onto the paper and leaving a black mark. So diamond and graphite are the two pure forms of carbon, the two allotropes that everyone seems to know about. But then actually, in the last 30 years, we've discovered a whole range of new structures which are just as interesting and potentially more important for the future for new technology. Now, for small numbers of atoms, if we're just talking, say, between 1 and 10 atoms, chains are the most stable form of carbon. So if you could go out into space and throw up 10 atoms or so, they wouldn't form diamond or graphite because they're made of billions and billions of atoms all packed together. Actually, chains are the stablest form. And the bonding here is that, of course, a carbon atom wants to have 4 neighbours or 4 bonds around it. But of course, here in a chain, a long chain, it only has 2 neighbours. So what you can have is a triple bond and a single bond, a triple bond and a single bond, and that can stabilise the molecule. As these get longer and longer, these can join up to form a ring. So between, say, 1 and 20 atoms, probably the chains and the rings are the most stable form of carbon. When you get above 20 atoms, what can happen is that these one-dimensional structures collapse down to form cages. By about 60 carbon atoms, C60 is stable. And of course, this has the beautiful football structure, 12 pentagons, 20 hexagons, 60 atoms. C60 is probably the most stable one, but the other fullerenes or other structures can form. This is called Buckminster fullerene. All the cages together form a family called the Fullerenes. C20, this is just 20 atoms, is probably not stable, but certainly there's probably cages between C20 and C60, and they can get bigger to form bigger and bigger cages. It might be possible for cages to stack one inside the other like a sort of onion, perhaps not this small, but this is convenient to pick up and show you. So you've got a cage surrounded by another cage, surrounded by another cage, and this may well be the structure of soot, for example, the black stuff produced when you burn wood. We'll come back to that a bit later. In the fullerenes were discovered in 1985, and this led to the 1996 Nobel Prize in Chemistry awarded for the discovery of the fullerenes, the cages. For larger structures still, not billions and billions of atoms, but hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of atoms, tubes can be stable. So these are a bit like part of a cage on one end and then lots of hexagons to form a tube. These are about a nanometer across. That's 1,000th of a millionth of a meter. So they're called nanotubes. And they can be made from pure carbon or carbon, nitrogen and boron. And these tubes are very, very interesting. They were discovered in 1991. You can also, in principle, you can take a piece of graphite and you can peel off a single layer of graphite from the surface of graphite to form a single sheet, and this is called graphene. And the development of this work, which has been going on for a few years, led to the Physics Nobel Prize in 2010. So this family of cages are all based on carbon. Of course, carbon's got this beautiful versatility to form all these structures. It can form linear structures, planar structures, cages, and eventually diamond and graphite, the big structures. So this is our wonderful carbon meccano. So you can see on this slide the incredible diversity of carbon. We've got graphite in our pencils, we've got the diamonds in our diamond rings, we've got nanotubes, fullerenes, and graphene. I was very fortunate to play a small but important part in the discovery of Buckminster fullerene. So I was invited along to the Nobel Prize ceremony in Sweden. This is Harry Kroto receiving his Nobel Prize. That was in 1996. The fullerenes are interesting in their own right for all sorts of different reasons. You can get bigger fullerenes, so C60 here, of course, the football one, and in principle, you can make bigger and bigger fullerenes. And you could imagine a situation where one fullerene is inside another, so you get this sort of layering. And actually, this corresponds quite nicely to what we see in soot particles. So soot that's been with us since the beginning of time, you know, the first fires in caves with sooting ceilings, strike your match, you get sooting flame. It's still not completely understood, and the fullerene story may help to understand the way that soot forms, which will help us understand pollution, for example. 2010, the Nobel Prize for Physics was awarded for graphene. So almost every 10 years, something amazing happens with our understanding of carbon. So how come it's so diverse? What is it about carbon that makes it so special? Well, carbon's almost unique in the sense that it can form single, double, and triple bonds. So as a meccano, as an atomic meccano, having this ability to form single, double, and triple bonds means it has this incredible versatility to form chains, rings, cages, solid structures. C2, for example, simple molecule of 2 atoms, is so stable you can actually see it in the surface of stars. I think you can see the spectrum of C2 in the surface of the sun at 6,000 degrees. So not only have we got this incredible versatility with carbon, with its bonding, but it's an incredibly strong bond as well. For any more information, please check out my website.